Have you ever stopped to think that your home has its own spiritual health? Well, according to some Islamic teachings, the whole atmosphere within our four walls can have a huge impact on everything, from our family's mood to our finances. Okay, let's dive into the source material and really explore this perspective.
So this leads to a pretty serious question, and it's really the core idea we're looking at today. The source we're exploring puts forward the idea that, just like a person, a home can actually become afflicted by unseen negative influences, essentially becoming spiritually possessed.
And we're not just talking about a strange feeling or a bad vibe. The effects that are described are very real, very tangible. We're talking about real-world consequences that can touch every single part of life for the people inside, from their physical health all the way to their financial stability.
So you might be wondering, how does a home even become vulnerable to this in the first place? Well, this perspective suggests it's not random at all. Certain actions, or maybe a lack of certain actions, can basically open gateways for these negative influences to come right in. Let's take a look at what those gateways are.
The material we're looking at points to a few main gateways. As you can see here, they include things like neglecting the protective traditions of the Prophet Muhammad, which are known as the Sunnah. Then there's the direct presence of magic, and also having idols, statues, or certain kinds of images in the home. Let's dig into that first gateway a little bit, neglecting tradition. The source really emphasizes how important these small, consistent habits are. For example, forgetting to say salam, which means peace, when you walk into your home is seen as basically leaving the door wide open for devils to come in and find shelter. The same goes for not saying it Bismillah, or in the name of God, before you eat. It's like you're inviting them to pull up a chair and share your meal. And to really drive this point home, the source shares this powerful story. During a spiritual healing session, a jinn, that's a type of spiritual being in Islamic belief, apparently said it was going to a nearby wedding to get some food. And when someone asked how that was possible, since everyone there was Muslim, it replied that it would just find someone who forgot to say Bismillah. It's a pretty chilling reminder of how important these small acts are believed to be. Now, another gateway that gets highlighted is the presence of certain images. This perspective explains that pictures with faces, statues, or even some types of art can create a negative spiritual space. It actually points to a story where the angel Gabriel wouldn't enter the prophet's home because of a curtain that had images on it. The idea is that angels of mercy might actually avoid spaces like that. Okay, so if a house is spiritually afflicted, how would you even know? Well, the source lays out a number of symptoms that can start to show up within the family and the home itself. And the list is pretty extensive. It covers a whole range of issues. We're talking about a constant feeling of tiredness or just not wanting to do anything, frequent arguments between spouses and family members that seem to come out of nowhere, and even physical things like aches or strange cuts. The source also points to sudden financial problems, family members pulling away and isolating themselves, and big changes in appetite or sleep. And to show you just how serious this can be, the source tells this incredible story about a successful businessman. Shortly after moving into a new home, his business completely collapsed to the point where he struggled just to feed his family. It took him a whole year to finally connect his problems back to the house itself, which, it turned out, had a history of tragedy for the people who lived there before him. All right, so after hearing about the problems and the symptoms, you're probably wondering, okay, so what's the solution? What can you do? Well, the material offers a really clear step-by-step process for spiritually cleansing and protecting your home. The source lays out these 4 case steps. First up is to revive those simple but powerful prophetic traditions we talked about, like saying salam and bismillah, to create a foundation of spiritual protection. Step 2 is a more active cleansing. You recite specific Quranic verses over water and then sprinkle it in the corners of the house. But there's an important step before that. You have to give a verbal warning to any unseen entities to leave first. The third step is about consistency, reciting Surah Al-Baqarah, the 2nd chapter of the Quran, every 3 days to keep the home spiritually alive. And finally, step 4 is being proactive. You have to identify and get rid of the sources of sin and negativity in your environment. And that last step, getting rid of negative influences, is highlighted with another really striking anecdote. The source describes a child, Jen, explaining that it specifically looks for houses where kids are watching a certain cartoon, mentioned here as Doran, so it can go and sit with them. The entity claimed that its presence would stir up trouble, making the kids fight and cry. It's a direct link between the media we consume and potential spiritual interference. This brings up a really important idea: substitution. It's not enough to just remove the negative things. You have to actively fill that empty space with positivity. So the suggestion is to replace that kind of media with uplifting content, things like Quranic recitation, Islamic songs called nasheeds, or educational lectures, all to build a much more positive spiritual environment. So really, what's the end goal here? The ultimate goal of all these practices is nothing short of transformation, to turn a house from a potential source of spiritual trouble into a true sanctuary of peace and divine blessing. This comparison from the source really just puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? A home where God isn't remembered is described as a graveyard. But on the flip side, a home that's filled with remembrance is said to look like a shining star to the angels in heaven. And the feeling inside completely changes too. It goes from a place that feels tense, a place people might avoid, to a place where guests feel so comfortable and at peace that they just don't want to leave. So as we wrap this up, the source really leaves us with one final big question to reflect on. When you think about the media you bring in, the daily practices you keep or don't keep, and the overall atmosphere you're creating, what are you inviting into your home?